Have you ever felt stuck in your growth journey, wondering how to build resilience in the face of challenges?
Or maybe you're looking to shift your mindset and unlock your full potential.
Well, if you said yes, then you are in the right place.
Welcome to the Stretch Zone. I'm Hannah.
And I am Feds.
And here we explore self-development, nurture resilience, and embrace the mindset shifts that help you grow beyond your limits. Welcome back, everybody. Hi, Feds. How are you doing today?
Hi, Hannah. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm staying warm. We just got through our first storm of the year. In Atlanta, where I live, the hype was huge. I had bought bottles of water. I was boiling hard-boiled eggs in preparation, cooking potatoes, got cans of tuna in just in case I had lost electricity, which I didn't, which I'm very thankful for. And now I've got lots of extra bottles of water and a whole load of hard-boiled eggs to get through.
Wonderful. I mean, you wanted to be well prepared.
I did.
Right?
Well, last time this happened, I wasn't prepared and was rudely shocked at my stupidity. So better to be prepared, but not sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Better safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's funny because we're talking about the subject of perfectionism today, and this is a really interesting one for me because I've always labeled myself as a non-perfectionist, and my husband as perfectionism. We'll go more into that a little bit later on, but I have to say that things have probably changed a little over the years as I've got older. The fact that I did start to prepare for this and got quite sort of wound up about it, and thinking about, oh my goodness, what will happen if it's that voice that's in your head that is persistent, saying, you can't fail at this. You mustn't make a mistake. And perfectionism is a bit like that. We can really get stuck in a loop, and it can be this spinning loop that's inside of us, telling us that if we don't get this right, we could fail. That's really what perfectionism is all about. That anything less than perfect is a failure. And that can show up in so many different scenarios in our life. Often, I think it's a big one when it comes to work. I think that we can also turn perfectionism into every aspect of our life. So if we haven't perfected our relationship, let's say a relationship falls apart, we then start to say that we're not capable, we're a failure. Any kind of creative project that you might do, even in personal growth, if we feel like we're not personally growing in some way, that suddenly immediately becomes a failure. And really, I think the thing to concentrate on here is that progress over being perfect isn't actually about lowering our standards. It's all about the actions that we take and the momentum that we take. But we really get stuck in this, well, the end product is not perfect, so therefore we've failed. I'd love to know a little bit more about perfectionism and where this comes from, and how it holds us back in life.
So, well, perfectionism is something that I'm probably the opposite of you. Like, I've dealt with perfectionism for many, many years, and it is really hard to get out of the perfectionism trap. And especially in the language learning field, there is this thing of practice makes perfect, right?
Yes.
Yep. And people get stuck on this idea. They literally fossilize on this idea, expecting to reach a level of knowledge, and they will feel perfect. Like I had multiple clients telling me, "Oh, I want to speak perfect English." The problem is that when I ask them, "What does it mean perfect to you?" no one ever knows how to give me a solid answer. And there are many different reasons, right? So, perfectionism is a very typical aspect of a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And we talked about this multiple times. So, the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. People who have a fixed mindset, or they tend to lean into having a fixed mindset, they really don't see mistakes as a moment to learn and as a moment to grow. And so, as a result, they try to avoid mistakes at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a little bit of a trap in itself, because you want to improve, you want to do things differently, but then um, you can't really do that, right? So, you get stuck. Growth mindset, on the other hand, is more focused on progression, movement. We try to adapt and to learn from all the mistakes we make, right? Um, we all fear judgment. I still have to find someone who, from a very young age, never really cared about what other people thought. Some people care more than others. And so, of course, you can imagine that people who have a strong fear of judgment, as a result, they tend to be perfectionist. We do not want other people to tell us what we did wrong. And this is where we get stuck. It's a never ending cycle, because we want to be perfect. We don't want to make mistakes, but to become perfect, we need to practice, but we don't want to practice because we don't want to make mistakes. So we get stuck into this never ending loop, and we often end up being biased. We see around us all the details that confirm what we already think about ourselves,
Yeah.
right? So when we fail, we get stuck into focusing on failure. And so the next time that we have an occasion to learn something, or test something, or try something, do something, we automatically stop, because we don't want to fail. And again, it's like a never ending cycle, right? So our brain literally reinforces those pathways. It goes and picks all the details in our lives that reinforce this idea that, oh yes, you still need to do some practice. You are not perfect just yet. So there are a lot of different ideas involved in this. Um, a lot of people use perfectionism as a coping mechanism. The idea of perfection gives us a feeling of control
Mm-hmm.
that in reality doesn't really exist. And we go back to the idea that we mentioned at the very beginning. What does perfection mean? What is perfect to me may be completely different to what is perfection to you. Still, we feel in control because we get to decide when we feel perfect, which most of the time is never. We never feel perfect enough,
Yeah.
right? And so, what do we do? How do we get out of this? And what kind of experience can we bring to the table to talk a little bit about what perfectionism, how perfectionism can be overcome, right?
Mm.
So you mentioned that you are not a perfectionist.
I actually look at it in a different way now. So I would have always
Okay.
labeled myself up until probably a good 5 years ago. I'm not a perfectionist. However, all of the points you've just made, it was really fascinating. So I could start to see where my perfectionism shows up. I think there's a perfectionism in every single person out there. I really do. It just comes out in a different way. So I married someone that is the using perfectionism as a coping mechanism. So it's very in the forefront. It's always right there in your face. He's quite sort of A type. Everything has to be in a certain order, and it's creating a sense of control for him. Whereas mine is in the background. I am the type of person that may not put myself out there for the fear of
Mm.
failure. So that's a
Mhm.
perfectionism in itself. It's just, I think it's a more hidden type of perfectionism. And that's what I've come to
Mhm.
realize in the last sort of 5 or so years in my own personal growth period, is
Mhm.
that I have never really pushed myself. I always sort of describe myself much more as a like, oh, let's just give it a go and see how it turns out. And I've very much been
Mhm.
like that through my whole life. But I guess as I've become more as more of an adult, she says at the age of 41, I started to realize, I had to maybe be a little more serious about a couple of things in life,
Mhm.
and create some more stability for myself, which meant I had to actually push harder and try harder at a few things. Um,
Mhm.
and that was very scary because I might have failed.
Mhm.
And I have failed. Absolutely, I have, at certain things, if that's what we want to call it. However, the growth mindset has now taught me that nothing's actually a failure. You're just, it's a path. And what do we learn from those stumbles? And I've learned that it is possible to keep pushing through um, those bumps in the road, and I will survive them.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people, I don't want to say they forget. I think they don't notice the fact that to grow, you necessarily have to make
Yeah.
mistakes. Now, I work with a lot of people from
Yeah.
Asia, and they tend to have a very perfectionist
Yeah.
mentality in the sense
Yeah.
that um, education it's based on exams and grades
Yeah.
and ranking. So there is this constant
Yeah.
reminder from the world that you have to show that you are better than others.
Yeah.
So even having this conversation with someone from the US, Europe, and even within Europe, Germany,
Hmm.
Sweden, the UK, France, Spain, or talking about this with someone from Asia may have a very different impact, and the other person may have a very different reaction,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So a lot of the clients I speak with, they are absolutely convinced that perfection is out there, and they are just not good enough to get there. Like they always keep on pushing themselves, thinking, yeah, I'm just not good enough. I'm just not good enough at English. I'm just not good enough at this. I'm lazy.
Hmm.
And I'm like, are you though? Are you really lazy? Are you really the kind of person who doesn't put 100% effort? So I think it is the whole idea of what perfectionism is caused
Yeah.
by that we also want to go and take a look at,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think that's really fascinating, and you really hit the nail on the head when you talk about it in terms of a cultural thing as well. And so I
Hmm.
I think that perfectionism really shows up in different ways, but I can totally relate
Hmm.
after living in Asia. Although I do think Vietnamese are not quite the same clientele as a lot of the people that
Hmm.
you're referring to, or
Hmm.
dealing with. There are
Hmm.
some cultures that do perfectionism in different ways.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and even, it's a vast difference even within Europe as well. There are certainly
Yeah.
certain countries that I'm thinking of, that if I'm thinking stereotypically, that there's a certain type of way of being, and perfectionism really is wrapped up in that sort of
Yeah.
upbringing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a really interesting perspective to have and to think about when it comes to perfectionism, and one that we should all take a little step back and look at and go, okay, so what does perfectionism actually mean to me
Hmm.
as a human?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
I mean, setting the standards that we set for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, they are very important
Mm-hmm.
here because, of course, especially considering that we live in an era where we're all so
Mm-hmm.
interconnected. to each other, right? It's so easy to just go online and take a look at what other people are doing, or at least what they show us, right? So it is incredibly easy to be constantly bombarded by these short videos telling us, oh, there's someone out there who speaks English better
Doing,
than me. There's someone
yeah,
out there who cleans their house better
I
than
know.
me. There's someone out there who cooks better than me.
Yeah,
And so I think that the whole idea, like someone who is perfectionist can easily, it's a slippery
very
slope.
much so.
Like you get into this rabbit
Yeah,
hole where you're like, shit, I'm not good at
yeah,
anything. I need to work so hard. And I think what needs to click in someone's mind is that, first of all, we all have different standards. We all have different goals. We should have different goals. The problem is that no one really sets them. People in general, based on what I can see around me, are not great at setting goals. Because when someone says, yes, I mean, I'm talking about languages because that's what I do, right? When people come to me and they say, oh, I want to improve my English. And I'm like, okay, so we need to be very specific and we need to have measurable goals because you need to feel that you are improving. You need to see this
yeah.
improvement. Just the saying, it's like saying, oh, I want to cook better.
Hmm.
What does that
Hmm.
mean? Do you already know how to cook
Yeah,
something? What's your experience in the kitchen? How much time do you want to spend? Because let's be honest, there's a very small chance that you are going to become Marco Pierre White. So, what is your good enough?
so that
What is good?
absolutely, this is a really, really profound moment to think about. Anyone that's listening, what is your good enough? And this is where coaching comes in, and it's a really powerful tool, coaching, when it comes to perfectionism. I would say that every single client that I've ever worked with, this is a huge part of what we're dealing with. So it's
Yeah.
trying to make your ideas and your perfectionism actually tangible. So I'll have clients come to
Hmm.
me, and I was just talking with a client the other day, and she's really trying to figure out how she can live overseas and move away again from where she her home. And so she went and tried to live for 3 months somewhere. And it was a really good taster, but she then realized, oh, that wasn't quite right either. And so she
Hmm.
went back home again, and now she's starting to feel like, oh, I'm a failure. This didn't work out. And we really just dug deep into that and realized what she could learn from that experience. And there were
Yeah.
loads of things that she learned in those 3 months of being away, and loads of things that she
Yeah.
could tangibly say, oh, actually, that was really good for me. It wasn't actually a
Yeah.
failure. Um, so
Yeah.
then we could start to create. Oh, okay. So maybe the end goal of I am going to live in this place and have this job and this career and the family, maybe that's slightly too big right now. Let's pull it back a little
Yeah.
bit. This actually feels much more appropriate and realistic. So
Hmm.
coaching can be a really great time to sit and be a little more realistic with some of our hopes and dreams and our thoughts, and try to
Yeah.
make things a little more tangible. Like when you've literally asked the question, what does speaking English perfectly actually look like or mean? Your
Hmm.
clients, they probably sit and just pause for a moment and go, I don't actually know. Let's really think about that.
Hmm.
What does that actually mean?
Hmm.
And that good
Yeah.
enough goal is a really important one. So I have been loving this technique of good enough. So building my business
Hmm.
has been really challenging, and the perfectionism comes in really, particularly when I'm procrastinating. And I think a lot of people will
Hmm.
think about that. So if we're just stuck on something, we're procrastinating, usually it's because we think, well, it has to be perfect before we put it out, or my idea
Yeah.
has to be perfect before I approach someone. Um, my website has to be perfect before I actually tell anybody.
Yeah.
So you procrastinate for
Hmm.
ages and ages. So what I was taught was actually, is this 70% done? Is my website
Yeah.
70% perfect? If it's hitting
Yeah.
that 70% mark that I'm creating, then
Yeah.
friggin' launch it and just move on to the
Yeah.
next thing. Because
Yeah.
For me, that was the way that I could move forwards onto the next task. Otherwise, I'm just stuck looking at
Mhm.
my logo, which I don't even have. I don't even think, well, I don't even know if I've got a proper logo. I've got two. So, but you know how many hours you can spend just choosing your bloody colors
Oh,
for
yeah.
your branding?
Yeah.
And that's procrastination.
Yeah.
And that's about
Yeah,
perfectionism.
I know. I know. And the thing is, another idea connected to this is when we are perfectionists, we get stuck in all of these activities that fill up
Yes.
our
Yes.
diary, and they give us a false sense of
Yeah.
achievement,
Yeah.
right? When in reality, we are not really achieving
Yeah.
anything, right? So we have to be very clear when it comes to figuring what kind of exercise activity do I need to do to actually move
Yeah.
forward, right? And I find that this is incredibly challenging for perfectionist people because we tend to say, oh, I spent the whole day on my website. Amazing. I've achieved so much. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, but you haven't really sold anything, have
Yeah.
you? So you're not moving forward. You're just stuck in this cycle again, thinking that you are achieving a lot, but you are actually not moving forward. And one thing that really changed, well, at least is changing my way of seeing this, is that a lot of people are perfectionists because they don't feel ready.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And this is my
Hmm.
issue, right? I always feel like, oh, I need to know
Hmm.
more. I am not the top expert yet. So I need to know more. I need to study more. I need to do more courses and whatever. But I was actually watching a video, and this person was like, well, you just need to be 20% more forward, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
compared to someone else to help them doing what they are doing. You don't need to be a master guru of the
Yeah.
universe and knowing absolutely everything because it's just not realistic. You will never know everything. But if you know 20%
Hmm.
more compared to someone else, you can help them. You've
Absolutely.
got something that you can teach them, coach them about, and so on. So I think there are a couple of things here. On one side, recognize your wins.
Yeah.
Know that you already know, you have already achieved, and mark that, notice that, and remind yourself of all these small wins, micro wins that can actually help you move forward. And I think, again, this is something that people never do. We
No.
always focus about next,
Yes.
next, more, more.
Absolutely. And I only when I was doing my coaching training did I realize how bad we are as humans, because this is integrated into our coaching training, is to really encourage our
Yeah,
clients to recognize their wins and to celebrate their wins. So we specifically
yeah,
ask, how are you going to celebrate when you've achieved this? And to get the client to really think of a
exactly.
way that they might celebrate it. And it doesn't have to be a big party, it could be whatever it is, really small. But we as humans really forget the journey. It's all just about the
Hmm.
destination. And actually, if you
Yeah.
do look back at your life and you look at, big moments that you remember in your life, often it is the journey that's the best part.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
we've
it
just
is.
not really acknowledged it at all or thought about it at all. That's a
No.
really big one. So yeah, track your
Yeah.
micro wins, if you
Yeah.
can. Um, and then finally, it's just really reframing our mistakes. So the word failure was a really big one, I know, for me, and I know for my clients. So that's a really big word. And I think there's a lot that we hold around that word. Um, and we are very happy to label ourselves as failures for very small things. But yet, if you were to ask them, how would you describe your friend if they did that or went through what you've been through, would you use the word failure? And they would absolutely say, no, never. They would say, well,
Hmm.
these are the reasons why this happened, and they've probably learnt this from it, or I would have learnt this from it. It's very unusual to label other people as a failure, but yet we're very free with the word for ourselves. So if we could try to reframe that sense of failure
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
as a growth moment and figure out, okay, what
Mm-hmm.
is it that maybe I learned from that? What could I have done differently? And maybe next time you're still going to not quite get it, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We, as humans, sometimes need a few tries at things
Yeah.
before we can start to move forwards.
Yeah. I think like an exercise that I often do is I try at least. I try and talk to myself as I would talk to a
Yeah,
friend.
it's a good one.
Um, and
Mm.
I think again, like before I did my coaching course, I was a little bit skeptical.
Hmm.
I was thinking, why would I need to talk to myself like I talk to a friend? Like I'm me, you know. But then there is a truth in that. The way you talk to a friend is definitely kinder than the way you talk to yourself most of the
Hmm.
times. And if we are not friends with ourselves, like we can't really go far,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to be the friend who is constantly criticizing harshly. You want to be the supportive friend who helps you going through no matter
Mm.
what. So this can be a little bit of a challenge for the week, for you, for the listeners, for me, for everybody. Um, I'm definitely gonna take a look at one area in my life where perfectionism is holding me back this week,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna take action. Even though it's going to be an imperfect action, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go for
Yeah,
it.
because remember that progress is actually freedom. Um, and when we're stuck in that analysis, it becomes a paralysis. I mean that to
Yeah,
totally rhyme as it did. Um,
yeah,
and those small, imperfect steps, that's what creates the momentum.
yeah,
And I love that. Let's set ourselves a challenge for this week. What
yeah,
small step could I do to make allow me to move forwards with whatever it is that we're procrastinating that's creating
yeah.
um, something that's not moving forwards for us.
Yeah. I know, like, for me, it's definitely social media. Or actually, I realize it's not even social media, is sharing um, ideas, thoughts, tips, suggestions with people, mainly online, of course, because I'm not just going to go out of the door and start shouting to the world.
Yep.
So I think that that's going to be my imperfect action of the week. Just starting sharing a little bit more, even just what I think. It doesn't have to be like the a big moment of enlightenment. It just has to be something that I think. Is there anything that came to mind when it comes to imperfect actions that you would like to put in
Yeah,
place?
so I am trying to do a new way of marketing at the moment, and it's not about social media, it's about connecting with people and creating relationships. And I am really procrastinating about reaching out to people because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and I'm still slightly
Yeah,
struggling with the moments of when it doesn't work.
yeah, yeah,
And I noticed that then I am having to do a lot of self talk of um, it's okay. You just got to try
yeah,
again, and that's part of it.
yeah,
And I was taught that that's
yeah,
going to happen, and it's nothing
yeah.
unusual. But the internal dialogue of, oh, well, you've just failed, is the one that I'm really trying to work through for myself at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, absolutely. Let us know, guys, listeners. Send us comments. Let us know via social media, email. Um, Anywhere you'd like to reach out to us. You can find us on Spotify, of course. You can find us on YouTube at the Stretch Zone _ podcast. Feel free to share these episodes with anyone you think may benefit from this. And thank you, Hannah, for
Thank you.
the conversation. I think It was very enlightening. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, everyone.
Wrapping up today's episode, remember, you don't have to face change alone.
If you'd like to connect or learn more about working with us individually, reach out to us through our Instagram account at thestretchzone_podcast, or find our emails in the footnotes to this episode. We're here to support you on your journey, each in your own way.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Stretch Zone. If today's discussion resonated with you, remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with anyone who might benefit. Until next time, keep stretching beyond your comfort zone.